is episode 8 of the Future of Intermodal. Let's give a warm welcome to our host, Mr. Frank Sonzala. Frank?
Thank you, Natalia. Well, coming to you from our studios in Southgate, California. It's one of the cooler days here in Southern California. And in fact, we're going to be touching on some great subjects today. This is podcast number 8. And number 8 is a very lucky number in lots of parts of the world. You know, a lot of times in the U.S., 7 is a lucky number. But I look at all the numbers being my lucky numbers as long as I can still count. You know, that's a good deal. We have a very special guest today. Natalia, would you introduce her?
Yes, I will, Frank. Today's guest is the CEO of Ships and the host of Let's Talk Supply Chain. Let's give a welcome to Sarah Barnes-Humphrey. Thank you for being here today, Sarah.
Thank you, guys. I am really excited to be here with you today.
Well, Sarah, I'm really happy that you're with me today because I was with you on your radio show for IANA a month ago or two, it was?
Yep.
And I've just been watching it getting hits, all 4 of them that have been out there, been getting hits on LinkedIn and Instagram and all the social media. It's so very, very popular show, so congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that was a fun mini-series to do in partnership with IANA, and I was glad that you were on the show as one of the guests.
Yeah, it was. They asked me, and I said, of course. And then I've been following you ever since, and I thought it'd be a good idea to get you on here because there's a lot of things about logistics, and of course the intermodal industry in the trucking industry, and we kind of like had a good way of talking to each other on your show. So hopefully we can get that same vibe coming out of here on this podcast. So I'm going to ask you very first, how long have you been in the logistics industry?
Well, I have been in logistics for over 20 years, so that's 2 decades. I started right out of high school.
Started when you were 10 years old?
Ah, thank you. Thank you. I wish.
Oh, okay. So, right out of high school then. And why, besides your background, what motivated you to get into logistics?
Well, my parents actually owned a private 3PL company just outside of Toronto. And so I spent summers when I was 16 in the office, doing the usual filing and all of that kind of stuff. And then I went straight into the family business after high school and got all of my diplomas and all of my post-secondary education while I was working through correspondence and doing things online.
Great. Your program, Let's Talk Supply Chain. Let's delve into that a little bit. Give me a little bit of the deep meaning behind Let's Talk Supply Chain and what you're portraying to get it out there into the industry.
Well, Frank, I'm glad that you asked that question. It's a bit of a long story, so I'll try to keep it short. When I was working for my parents' company, I was in operations for 8 years, sales for 8 years, and then I ended up as director of sales and marketing. And when I did that, there really wasn't anywhere for us to tell our brand story. And as a freight forwarder, it's very important for us to be able to tell that story so that we can talk to the community about how we differentiate ourselves and what it would be like to work with us. And I was listening to a lot of podcasts at the time, and I thought, well, hey, if Lewis Howes can do it with the School of Greatness, I can definitely get into podcasting. And so I asked a gentleman from my customs department to be my co-host, and my team and I embarked on the journey of doing a podcast. We called it Two Babes Talk Supply Chain. Because it was a guy and a girl, and we wanted to push the industry as far as we could with the name. And it was just fun. It was fun. And then eventually I started bringing on guests and creating some revenue out of it. So I brought it into my own company. Unfortunately, in the fall of 2017, my parents' business closed its doors. And so I lost my team, I lost my co-host, but I ended up, obviously I had paying guests, so I had to keep it going. So I had to learn graphic design and website design and all sorts of stuff. And From there, I started the Woman in Supply Chain series in January 2018, just to really get their thoughts, perspectives, talk about their journeys to inspire the next generation and other people in the industry. And so by April 2018, they really didn't resonate with the name anymore. So I rebranded everything within a week to Let's Talk Supply Chain. And it's been a great journey ever since. The core business of Let's Talk Supply Chain is really to highlight the innovations in the companies in the industry and what they do and how they can help you with challenges. But we've also moved into diversity as well. So we still have our Woman in Supply Chain series, and we just started a diversity and inclusion series called Blended, where we're bringing multiple people, supply chain professionals from all walks of life to talk about diversity and inclusion really authentically and genuinely and really get into the crux of it all.
Wow. Well, it's obvious to me that your marketing, sales, and your business background has been able to lead you into being in the forefront here of logistics, and actually having the podcast early on and now moving it into multiple levels of podcasting is fantastic, and I'm very, very excited about that. In the last 5 years, and you've been in this business for a while now, you said 20 years, so in the last 5 years, what do you think was the most significant changes you saw in the last 5 years in this industry?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think there's a couple of things really. I think there's been more of a focus on marketing where traditionally there hasn't been. I mean, I know some freight forwarders probably even 10 years ago that was like, why do we need a website? And so
Absolutely, yeah.
that
Why do you need a website? Why do you need this? Why do you need social media? How are you? What's so bad about having an ad in a magazine? And that ad in the magazine is something that sits on a coffee table now, and the videos on your phone and everything else is amazing. I didn't want to interrupt you, but just it hits a nice part of my heart when you talk about getting everything out there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, having a great mix between traditional marketing and digital marketing is still a good strategy, but it was just the emergence of digital marketing within the logistics industry and people really understanding the importance of it and putting some money behind it and that kind of thing. I think technology has ramped up the game. And I think one more very, very important thing that we do need to talk about is that supply chain now has a seat at the table. We're seeing more chief supply chain officers. Businesses are understanding that supply chain really is the core of their business. And so it's been exciting to see that seat at the table. And even in the last 6 months, supply chain coming out of the mouths of politicians or Dr. Oz or, different things like that.
Absolutely. You know, when we talked about the last 5 years, and a lot of people like to ask questions about the next 5 years, but I don't like to do that because with the advent of this phone, whether it's an iPhone or an Android phone, we're talking about the next 30 seconds. Everything is changing in 30-second intervals, and we can't keep up with it. So we can't predict what is going to be 60 seconds from now. But in the very near future, what do you see coming on the horizon with the logistics industry that could be like the inside story, so we get it first?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely bang on about change. I mean, everything is moving faster and faster. I had a guest on my show probably about 2 years ago that talked about the body of knowledge changing every 1.5 years, and that was 2 years ago, which means that things are just ramping up even more. I think that we need to be proactive and not reactive through the adoption of technology. I think that's obviously going to be very important, especially when we talk about predictive analytics and being able to be a lot more strategic in how we are managing our supply chains. I think that the next generation is taking an even closer look at supply chain and bringing them into the industry is going to foster even more new ideas and innovation. But I also think that we need to fill the gap on the supply chain professionals that are leaving the industry as well so that we can pass down the knowledge and the expertise. And I think in the next 5 years, those are really two important topics that we should be focusing on.
Well, I think the term logistics has really come to the forefront in the last 10 years. But
Yeah.
now it's more about the logistics. With our company, the managing of the in and the out gating of our products and managing it across the United States and across the water and in the air. It is amazing, and our people are very, very good at it. And one day I want to introduce you to our director of logistics, North Lee, and maybe you guys could have a little discussion at a later date because he's been doing some wonderful stuff for us, and I would like to have him in here today, but he's busy working on trying to get things in and out of the Southgate plant here and the Emporia plant in Virginia.
That would be great.
Oh, definitely. Uh, you mentioned earlier, and I don't want to go real deep into it, but you said you were catapulted into this because your family business was lost. And those
Yeah.
things are really traumatic times and tough times. So this is kind of like a two-part question. How did that actually affect you at the moment that you found out about it, or the moments that you found out about it? And secondly, what has been the most rewarding part of your logistics journey?
Yeah, that was probably the worst day of my whole entire life. I had spent the last, 20 years helping to build up that company. We had created a family. It was something that my dad had been working on for a long time. The whole family was involved, my brother, my mom, my dad. And so, yeah, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was pretty devastating, especially when you walk in on your birthday and you're told your expense check is going to bounce, you're not going to get severance, and you're not going to get your last paycheck, and. So it was a pretty hard time, unfortunately. But the most rewarding part on top of that was working with family. I got to work with my family for 20 years. I got to learn from them. My mom was HR, my dad the CEO. My brother grew up in the business. I grew up in the business, and there was a lot to learn. There was a lot to learn from just dealing with people. Being the daughter of the owner, that's a hard thing to come through as well. But working with family and the people that we had in the business, I also think that one of the most rewarding parts about my journey as well is the amazing and supportive people that are part of the supply chain community. They're challenging the industry on a variety of different topics. And, we're doing the same thing on Let's Talk Supply Chain. We're bringing the community together. We're talking about diversity and inclusion. We're very focused on mental health as well of the supply chain community. And so those are really rewarding, getting the feedback, hearing back from people about how the show has changed the trajectory of their career, and how much they've learned from the show, and how much, blended, even though we've only just, I mean, this week it'll be episode 2, but we've only just started this journey, and how much it has changed people's lives is just really a rewarding part of what I do on a day-to-day basis.
Great, great. Well, thank you for bringing that all together for me. I wanted to just delve into that a little bit. Uh, I'm one of those people that hear the catchphrases all the time. And one of the catchphrases that I'm seeing more and more in print and on the internet and every speech that goes out there is blockchain. So we got supply chain and we got blockchain. And I think what I mentioned earlier today, that blockchain sounds to me like the old time in Chicago with the mafia, that they would take you down to the river and there would be a chain and a concrete block tied around your ankle and you were gone. So I know blockchain today means something very, very high tech, and I would like you to just give me the 10,000-foot view of blockchain, and what is the difference between blockchain and supply chain for people like me that don't really have that kind of knowledge yet.
Yeah. So when I think about blockchain, I think about Suchi Ramesh. She's the CEO of Suchi, and I've had several different conversations with her, and she always says one source of truth. which is the way I kind of view blockchain, is because it's really bringing all of the participants together in I would say collaborative manner when it comes to data and data sharing. I think we've got to be careful with blockchain, and I'll get to that in a second. But when we look at supply chain is really from start to finish, right? When you're sourcing the product, when you're buying the product, you're moving the product, you're warehousing the product, and you're delivering the product to end consumer. And so supply chain really is the movement of goods from start to finish, where blockchain is really based on data and bringing the stakeholders together to share that data and create, some regulations. I think I'm not a blockchain expert. I did a blockchain expert on the show. He's actually called the Blockchain Guru, and so that episode aired a couple of weeks ago. And so I think that we're not quite there yet with blockchain. I think we've got quite a long way to go, because even if it's one source of truth and we've got stakeholders, how do we figure out monopolies so that we don't have monopolies over industry? And that's probably something that an expert in blockchain could answer. But for right now, that's one of the questions that I have.
I'm going to just ask a question. Maybe you could give me the number of the guru, because who the heck named it blockchain?
Sorry, repeat that for me?
Who the heck named it blockchain? The terminology.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I have no idea.
Me either.
I mean, a question I should have asked him.
Well, that's a good one for. Give him a call, ask it, and then maybe we can get back and slip it into the show later on.
All right. I definitely will.
Well, I think that it's about time for a break.
Yes, it is.
Natalia?
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a short commercial break. We'll be right back. Thank you.
Ships or Ship Z? Only you can decide. Find out more at shipzorz.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our show and to our host, Frank.
Thank you, Natalia. Wow, that was very interesting. Can you give me a little bit more information on Ships?
Yeah, Ships is our brand new platform we launched a couple of months ago. I took my experience that we spoke about earlier in freight forwarding and my experience when I was in sales selling those freight forwarding services. And I took the pain points on both sides and brought it into an online platform. So most importers and exporters go to 3 to 5 different freight forwarders for their air freight and ocean freight shipments. The communication's done by email and Excel, and it's kind of all over the place. Documents get lost. And so we really are just taking what they're doing right now in email and Excel, and we put it online so that everybody can keep documentation, messaging, and also get access to multiple different freight forwarders to price out your shipments. So that's it. That's really what we've done with the Ships platform, and we're super excited. We're getting a lot of really great feedback. So I appreciate you asking.
Well, it's I noticed in the commercial that it's Ships with a Z or a Z. So you are letting yourself known as a Canadian now, right?
Well, that's why we did that commercial, was because some people call it Ship Z and some people call it Ships. And so we just wanted to do a play on that and drive people to the website to learn more.
That's good. That's great. Well, our chief commercial officer, Trevor Ash, is also Canadian, and he's from Milton, Ontario.
Oh, that's where I am.
I knew
That's
you were in Milton, Ontario. It looks like everybody in the trucking industry comes out of Milton, Ontario. I'm not sure about that, but you don't even say it's Toronto. You say Milton is a much bigger place for the for the intermodal and for the whole trucking industry. Correct?
I guess so. I've never heard that before, but it sounds like we're neighbors.
Well, I'm thinking if I know two people from Milton, they're both in the trucking industry. It's got to be contagious over there. Anyway.
So true.
Well, great. I really want to get into some the second part of our program here. We get into the more personal side of Miss Sarah. And basically, well, number one, you got three names. So how does the three names come together?
What, Sarah Barnes-Humphrey?
Yes.
Yeah, well, my when I got married, obviously my husband's last name is Humphrey.
Okay.
But I had already been in the industry and sort of already got a name for myself. And so I kept Barnes and decided to hyphenate it.
There you go. Okay, well, I always see that the most important people in the world have three names. So,
Yes.
so you're right up there.
Yay. I did something right.
Oh, you've done a lot right. I can see that. Let's talk about things here. We have three questions, and the first one is called bottoms up. And bottoms up doesn't mean it's a drinking game. It's a bottoms up is more about something that was terrible. Maybe we already touched on it, but something that was terrible in your life, and you turned it around to be a positive. So that is the question. At a time you were faced with a challenging situation, how did you overcome it?
Yeah, so I'm going to go back to my dad closing the doors of the business, and I was out on my butt after 20 years. That was probably the biggest challenging situation that obviously I've ever been in. And it was really more about picking myself up, dusting myself off, because I had people that were relying on me because I had already started this podcast and I had guests lined up, and really it was just about focusing on what I could do and how I could help change the industry and move it forward. And so when that happened at the beginning of November, I kind of took November. I was still doing some stuff in the podcast. It took some therapy. I see a therapist. I think everybody should see a therapist. I'm not shy about it. I think it's always great to have somebody to talk to outside of what you're going through. But that December, I really turned things around and looked at 2019 or 2018 and just was like, what am I going to do? And how am I going to make this thing work? And that's when I started coming up with the idea for the Woman in Supply Chain series. And really, it was just one step in front of the other to get everything done. It was very overwhelming because I'm not a graphics person and I had to figure out how to make my own graphics and how to, build my website. And my first episode out the gate was horrible. I used Skype and the sound quality was really, really bad, but I posted it anyways. And that's something that I've always lived by, as progress, not perfection. And so it was really just one foot in front of the other and see where this thing would take me.
Wow.
Right on.
Very good. Thank you for sharing that with us. And that's a great story.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful story. And you're continuing a success with it. And I'm very happy you're on the show.
Me too. It's been an incredible, crazy couple of years.
Wow.
That's for sure.
It's wonderful. Now, the other part, this next is about music. And we always try to tie something into music because music sets the tone for life and the vibe for life. And so what I'd like to know from you, what is your most memorable situation, or if you play a musical instrument, or what out of music, your favorite group or concert that you saw, anything like that. And just let us know. I'd like to know more about you from the musical side.
I love that question. So music has always been a part of my life. My dad was in a band at the time of the Beatles in the UK.
Oh, wonderful.
And he's always played the guitar. I've always sang, like not in front of people, but I definitely sing at home. And so music is a big part of my journey. A couple of things came to mind when you asked me this question was, one, I saw Rolling Stones' Bridges to Babylon tour. That was really, really cool.
Oh, wow.
I also saw Tom Jones in concert when I was 16 years old. And I just remember all the granny panties being like thrown up on stage. Really, really funny.
You didn't know if there were panties or parachutes.
That was incredible. Like all of these
Who just landed on stage?
all of these women just like in droves to the stage, and he's up there in his leather pants, and it was just really funny. Another one that I can say is that I was in Vegas for the Billboard Music Awards, and we were walking to the elevator, and I saw Coolio's hair walking into the elevator, and so we booked it. Like, we ran, and then we slowed up as we got to the elevator. We got into the elevator with Coolio, and he freestyled the whole way down. It was amazing in itself. And then I want to say I also saw, it was a British band, and I can't remember the name of them right now, but I saw them in Vancouver. They only played 2 songs because people were throwing beer bottles at them, and they left the stage, and it was almost a riot. So I've been to a lot of concerts. Music is a really big part of my journey, and so I've got a lot of great examples.
Canadians are harsh critics, huh? They don't like you to throw beer bottles at you.
I don't know why they were throwing them. I mean, they were all there for them. Oh, and I can tell you another one. I went to see Blind Melon when I was
Oh, wow,
I
yeah.
think I was 16. And no, I went to see Lenny Kravitz, and Blind Melon opened up for him before Shannon
wow.
Hoon actually died.
Yeah.
And my dad was with me. And because of what Shannon Hoon did on stage, my dad actually picked us up and like ran us out of the concert hall. So I never got to see Lenny Kravitz because of what Shannon Hoon did on the stage.
We'll talk about that after the
Oh,
podcast.
yeah. Wow. I was in the music industry in the 70s, and when you brought up Tom Jones, I actually had dinner with Tom Jones, his wife, and his child on Chagrin Boulevard in Cleveland, Ohio, because the agency I was working for, that was their biggest star. Engelbert Humperdinck at the time, and Tom Jones. And then I was in there to bring the rock and roll and the jazz and everything else in it. But he was a great guy. He was a great guy. It was like sitting with your next door neighbor, not sitting with the guy that people throw panties at. So, anyway.
Well, then you would probably appreciate my dad's music. So if you're ever looking it up, their band was called Virgin Sleep.
Okay, I'll look that up. Very good.
Yeah, it's like Pink Floyd kind of ish.
All right.
Nice.
All right. Wish you
And
were here.
they're on Apple, actually. We found them on Apple.
Oh,
Wow.
that's nice.
Unbelievable. Well, that's good. A great story. And I lost the picture over here, but it's okay. The next part is what we call sports in 60 seconds. And the sports in 60 seconds can be whatever your favorite sporting event is, a sport that you like, whatever the moment it is. That tell us in 1 minute or less what that is.
I got 2 things. So I've been playing softball since I was 5, so over 30 years, and I'm a catcher. And I still am a catcher in modified slow pitch, and I throw out the guys at second base. Last year, I threw out the 2 fastest guys in the league on second base, and that was quite an accomplishment because I'm in my late 30s. And then the other one is when the Raptors won the championship. My husband and I went downtown for the parade, and we stood there for 4 hours. We got champagne showered. We got to see the players and
Wow.
really just be part of the magnificent day and the incredible feeling of our country coming together. So those are my 2 60 seconds.
Wow,
Nice.
that is great. And, well, of course, baseball, softball, all of that is my best sport that I love to watch and love to participate in. And you throwing out 2 people at second base, I hope you have some video of that.
I don't. I so wish that I did.
Oh, man, that would be great. That would be great. So, sports in 60 seconds is over. Before I ask you the next question, do you have another studio break here?
Yes, we do. We have another commercial break. We will be back shortly. Thank you.
Trust, dedication, growth. At CIE Manufacturing, we pride ourselves not only on being the best, but working with the best. We'd like to show our appreciation to J.B. Hunt, Your commitment does not go unnoticed by our team, who work diligently to ensure that in return, you receive our commitment to you. Safety, quality, and customer satisfaction. Thank you for an extraordinary partnership spanning 16 years and 100,000 chassis. Thank you from all of us.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are back. Thank you, Frank.
Yes, I'd like to mention that there's also this week coming up on November 12th, the Harbor Trucking Association is going to have their virtual happy hour, which has been a lot of fun. I think this may be the third or fourth, maybe fifth one that they're doing.
Yes.
And I've been to every one of them online, and it's a fun thing to do. So look it up online, the Harbor Trucking Association, HTA for all of you here in the States that know it better by its letters. And we'll see you at that social hour. My last question for you, Sarah, is one that I'd like to know, because you're a professional, and from one amateur to a professional like yourself, I want to ask you, what do you think we can do to perfect this podcast or do it better? What did you like about it, or what do you think we could do better?
I liked it all. I really like the questions at the end so that you can get to know the person outside of supply chain. Otherwise, I think that this is great. You know, the questions that you're asking are really relevant. You know, you're able to dive into the story of the person, but also talk about their thoughts and perspectives on the industry and gain some knowledge that way. So I wouldn't change a thing. I think that it's going to help you stand out in the industry.
Well, that's no help whatsoever. I was looking for some, the secret of life here coming, but no, I thank you very much for the compliment there, and it does help, because I hope we keep doing something right, and hopefully keep these podcasts being as interesting as possible. But as we come to the end, the tradition here is to remove my tie. And sometimes people say, Frank, why do you wear a tie? You're in California and everybody is super casual. Well, it's my uniform. And when I take my tie off, I'm kind of saying that my business here is over with. But I also have this beautiful lampshade here that was just a piece of wire. And we decided that I have so many ties, I could make the lampshade come off with the tie. So with that being said, we turn around over here and we close the program by hanging this nice blue tie next to last podcast's moon tie. So that is 8 ties, and we're moving right around. Sarah, it's been a pleasure talking with you. It's been a real pleasure talking with you, and I really want to invite you back some other time so we can get even further into the supply chain. And hopefully one day in the future, I'll come back and be on one of the shows that you're doing going down the road. So thank you very much. Have a great rest of this year. We're only about 6 weeks away to 2021. We want to get to 2021 and leave 2020 behind. If there's one thing that would have been really neat back in the days of what is Back to the Future, when the professor was sitting in the DeLorean and talking to Michael J. Fox, and he said, never said it should have been 2020. because that would definitely never come back to 2020 whatsoever, or go forward to it. So with that being said, thank you again. Have a blessed day, and come back and see our podcast.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much for
Sarah.
having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye. All right. So that went well.
So is that it?
That wasn't long at all.
No.
I like that.
Do you need anything else
Yeah.
from me, or do I go?
That was good.